Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another interview episode. I'm Mike, and today I have with me a returning guest from somewhere in this country. We have back with us Kenny of Rogue Legacy 2 and Cellar Door Games. How are you doing? So as you were telling me beforehand, you can barely see right now. Apparently you're behind on work. Otherwise, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I did have eye surgery a few days ago, but I'm recovering pretty well. I just have to make sure I take constant breaks while I'm working.
That's actually not. See, that's even better. Like, I just can't. I'm sorry, I can't have a meeting from 2 to like 4:30 after I take a nap. Like, it's
exactly. Yeah, I'm now forced to be responsible.
That sounds horrible. Why would people do such things? So I was going through. So we last talked end of August. I think Rogue Legacy 2 was like just coming out. And
that's right. Yeah.
So I know ages ago.
It feels like an eternity. Yeah.
I have. So there's been a couple updates since then, but it feels like the two recent ones are obviously you had Far Shores and I guess it's Arcane's Hallows is what you're calling them?
Yeah, Arcane Halos.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to properly pronounce it. Halos.
But say you made the game, like I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, English is not my forte.
So let's start with the obvious thing is, Rogue Legacy 2 is not done yet, by any stretch it sounds like. But it's already a lot bigger than Rogue Legacy 1.
Yeah, we think so. As far as like flat out numbers go, so like if you count the biomes and the enemies and all that kind of stuff, it's reached parity with Rogue Legacy 1. If you don't include like the small things like the last boss, and then there's of course NG Plus, which we haven't added in, but just the vanilla game, it has met pretty much everything that Rogue Legacy 1 has met. And then there's of course the additional things we added. So like relics weren't in Rogue Legacy 1, the different classes weren't in Rogue Legacy 1, at least with the different animations and different weapons. So all in all, we personally gauge it as bigger than Rogue Legacy 1, but there's some fudge room.
Your developer, there's always fudge room. It's like, it's always bigger. And you like pull up bullet points.
Fudge room in our favor, of course.
Yeah, you never like, the game's too small. It's always like, no, you don't understand. Now we have these sub-barbarians. You're like, it's the same barbarian, it's a different color.
Exactly.
So, let's start with the obvious thing. So when we talk as a hypothetical, like you're going in a relax, you do this thing. How has it been this kind of how has that process been of this continual development and pushing the game out and building it as players are doing it?
I think we're still, like, even though it's been 6 months now, we're still sort of learning the ropes. So one of the things with early access is that it's a lot more work, right? Basically, they're not as big as launch announcements for a game, but these content patch updates do require a lot of pre-planning and a lot of the things that you have to do for the actual launch of a game that now we have to do 5 or 6 times. It's like, you have to prepare a trailer well in advance. You have to set up all these massive patch notes and launch announcements and hit all of your media points. And so it's trying, but since we're doing it so much more frequently now, it's getting easier. So like we know what we need to prepare for ahead of time for that stuff. So it's not so bad.
At least you're getting some level of use to the balance. I do want to point out, you have done now twice the one thing you warned me you're going to do and I'm not happy about is resetting my upgrades.
Yeah, that's, you know what, in a perfect world we would not do that. We only do that because that's like, it's in our nature to just keep changing. If we didn't do that, that means the game's not changing, right? That means we're not improving things. That means the economy, even if it's messed up, we're not improving it, we're not fixing it, we're not balancing it. But because we are doing those things, it is a sign that, it is changing for the better. So with each reset, just assume that that's the case.
Yeah, that's at first. I was like, the first time I was like, okay, and then there's this update. I'm like, they just did the same thing again. What is going on here? And then every time I have to like roughly be like, where was I doing? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that's going to be the status quo for the next updates. It's because it's not just like if it was just minor tweaks. If we just move some skills around, say, then it's not a big deal. But we're actually, as time goes by, we come up with some good ideas. Community gives us some great ideas for skills, and then we add and remove skills. And then if you have your old skill tree, it doesn't make any more sense, right? We just have to move one of those skills out, and then your entire skill tree no longer makes any sort of sense. So it's like a house of cards, right? We are pulling cards out and putting them back in, and it crumbles every time.
This most recent update, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't notice it last time, is the first time I noticed the whole, like, when you're leveling up the castle, going upgrades, like, you have actually prereqs for the other skills tied to the level of that castle.
No, that's actually added to this patch.
So
I think we forgot to include that in the patch notes. No, you're not crazy. You're completely insane on that regard. Yeah, it was added actually near the end of development. It was of this patch. It was just like, oh, this is something that the designer felt was important to better balance the skill tree. So we implemented it.
Okay, so it adds balance, or it's just very much one of those, like, because I expected, like, oh, gold costs to change, or I'm trying my skills, but that was one of those, I was like, wait, I own this upgrade, why can't I buy it? And it was very much just a surprising thing.
Yeah, we were hoping it was clear with the lock icon, but for people who have been playing the game since the launch, there's always a bit of a, like, oh, what's going on? We had the same thing with armor. So we're testing an armor equation right now where armor no longer drops every time you take damage, but it has been dropping for the last 6 months, and so we got a lot of bug reports from people saying, oh, it's not working the way it used to. I think this is a bug, but it's really just on us to better communicate to the player the changes, and that's what we've been trying to do.
Yeah, armor is that thing with playing the game, and that's probably a critique honestly I have Rogue Legacy 2 is it's very, I think it's been, maybe this will help more because I didn't notice a ton, it's been relatively unclear kind of what armor does versus, like, because I've taken damage and then armor and health damage I take, or like it's very much like always watching it being like, I'm not fully, like I know it's helping, but I don't fully look at it and be able to comprehend on the back end what it's doing.
And it doesn't help that it's changed 3 times. So I don't know. I can't really say anything about it because it's still in flux. We actually still have some ideas that we're going to change for armor, so I don't even know how it's going to end up.
Yeah, so that's so obviously that's a big thing. One of the other things obviously we're here now talking about, you just, I'm gonna say just in quotes, released Arcane Hollows, as we said we don't know how to speak. So this is one that I think is, so it's your biggest update so far, and this is one that we said pushed the game really up from a point of view. What is it kind of like in this update was like one of your favorite things that at least stood out? Because to me, it was like, I think it was I don't know his name, the old guy that appeared kind of.
The architect?
Yeah, the architect. And then I noticed immediately how you changed the animations when I buy stuff. So when I buy upgrades now, that castle grows, or before it felt very flat when I would, like, a new part of the castle would appear when I'd buy an upgrade.
Yeah, well, no, it's all these minor things that we did. So that growing was actually always there, but what we did was, with this patch, we just hid the icons when it happens. So now you can actually see it grow. Because before it was just completely obscured by the UI, and these minor changes, all of a sudden people are like, oh, hey, there are animations, and all our hard work actually pays off. It was the same thing with the NPC characters. So like the architect, the blacksmith, the enchantress, when you spoke to them, the game would immediately pause. And they had a whole bunch of animations to them that were never playing because the game was paused. And so now we're just like, okay, well, don't pause the game when you're talking to them. And now they properly animate. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but it's just those small things that I think add a little bit of polish to the game.
I want to point out for the record, I have a game design degree and I use this degree like most days. I did not notice before you had animations on the castle. That's how much like it's like, oh, there were. This is interesting. Because like in my head, when I saw it happen, I was like, oh, it must have been flat before because I never recognized that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing is that even if you did notice it now, you'd have to have a great memory to remember that they didn't animate like a couple weeks ago. So, but yeah, it's all just to make the package more complete when we do finally release the game.
No, that's great. Is there any other spots to you though that this update that like either you're really proud of or like it's a really fun piece to this game now that you really do you think got added because of it?
I really like the fairy room triggers. So the previous way fairy room challenges would work. The fairy room is you enter a room, and there's a challenge that you have to complete within like a specified time, kill all the enemies, don't jump, etc., etc., etc.
Somewhat
And if you
horrible, somewhat easy.
complete that
Yes.
objective, yeah. And the problem with them was that some of them were like 10 seconds, beat it in 10 seconds. And the moment you enter the room, you got 10 seconds to like sort of get your bearings and to go from 0 to 100 and immediately beat the room. We've changed it so that now there's a switch that you can turn on. So to sort of give you some time to prepare for the challenge. I think that's a lot better. For a lot of people, they would enter a room, immediately fail it because they're like, don't jump. And you're not even paying attention, you just jump. And then all of a sudden you failed. And that didn't feel good for players. That felt unfair, a bit of a cheap shot. And now with these fairy room triggers, you're given plenty of time to prepare. So if you fail, you don't get to blame us.
So I still blame you because I saw one of those, right? I didn't trust whatsoever. I'm gonna hit it.
Yeah, they're gonna blame us. Whatever.
And then I failed the challenge. And I was like, I'm gonna leave the room and come back. Oh no, the challenge is still failed. Now Felicia the lever did. Just kept walking.
Yeah, it's but that gives some value to the architect because now when you reset the architect, he actually resets the fairy rooms for you. So you don't fully lose. It's the same concept as Rogue Legacy 1, but with Rogue Legacy 2, there was no architect for the first 2 releases, and so people fail in our fairy room, and they've just failed it, and it just felt really bad. So a lot of this patch, even though like what's really interesting is what you said earlier, where you said this patch is bigger than the Far Shores update, which happened before it. What's crazy is that the Far Shores update included 2 biomes. Like as far as content goes, pound for pound, the Far Shores update was far larger than the Arcane Halos. But a lot of the quality of life fixes we did, a lot of the optimizations we did, it actually does feel like the Arcane Halos is bigger than the Far Shores. So that was very interesting for us because we were worried, we're cutting down the number of biomes from 2 to 1. Are people going to be upset? And it was the opposite. It was like people appreciated it. People liked those changes to make the game more playable. So we're not going to cut it in half again. Don't worry about that. But it does sort of help us focus our priorities because we just assumed, content is king, and that's the only thing that's important. And the community has made it clear to us that that's not always the case.
So I think there's some level where content can be king, but I think it's because it is the type of games you guys are. So it's akin to like games like Hades, or there's a few others, like obviously like this very roguelike genre that I think there's an amount of content that is probably needed at the end product, but it's not as big as most people realize. And I think you guys are already seeing that's my guess too. It's like there needs to be probably 30 minutes of unique content when I run through this game, but there doesn't need to be 10 hours of content to run through this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've also noticed that some of the content that we provide people with, they don't even reach because there are obstacles in the way. So like if we make the game too hard, it doesn't matter if we've added 100% more content. No one's going to get through that content because the game's too difficult. So with this one, we spent more time making it more accessible for players. And so now that content, like for them, even though we only released 1 biome, they now have access to more than 1 biome because they can actually reach those biomes. So yeah, that was very important for us.
Yeah, no, it's a very, I think, interesting. It's a roguelike problem. It's a
roguelike problem.
It is,
yeah,
because it's a genre.
It is for sure.
Which I go back to whether you like getting that or not. I think you guys really popularized the genre in a lot of ways in the way we think of it in the last couple of years, and I think roguelike is kind of like the first one of those to really hit it in that way. And
awesome.
What it is, like, if I look at that time, like, it's like 2011, 2012, I think you were one of the first ones of this RPG-esque roguelites that I could think of. And I think it's the format because, like, you hit a lot of ways. It's like Hades, obviously, one people talk about right now a lot. And it's
right.
Hades only has 4 levels. Each level only has, like, 10 rooms. But people talk about it like it's an endless game. And it's...
Right.
But if I go to, like, Call of Duty and people go, well, you only have 8 maps, people start screaming at them.
Yeah, it's interesting what people want with their games and what they don't. But with Hades, it is only 10 rooms, but it is like they're always changing, right? So that helps to extend the gameplay. But even for Rogue Legacy, we don't like if we only had 4 biomes in our game, that wouldn't be enough, right? Because it also depends on how quickly you can get through the areas. So for Hades, it's kind of arena based, so you can't really skip floors. With our game, you can just zoom past 90% of the rooms.
You have a guy whose entire job is it's the explorer or something. I don't remember his name. Where he's like he can't attack, can't defend, just go collect gold.
Yeah, pacifist.
On paper, that'd be the worst thing. You handed a QA tested, like, you want me to go test what now?
Well, it's also like for fun. Like that's the thing about Rogue Legacy is that it tries not to take itself too seriously. The pacifist is, I guess people would call it gimmicky. I'm sure pro farmers will make use of it, but it was kind of there to be like you try it. Most people won't take it because you can only collect gold, right?
I'm like, my default guy is the barbarian, so I feel like, which I think was the problem last time too, because I go, his freeze ability and just that axe just throwing far enough, like, it's really hard to, like, have someone who's better.
Yeah, that's actually an issue we had with the first Rogue Legacy as well, where people would sort of stick to a class that they liked and didn't want to really change. I don't know if there's anything we can really fix about that. I mean, it's up to you. We do have, that's sort of why you have a random number of classes that you can choose from. Because sometimes you're just not going to get the barbarian, and we hope that encourages you to play the other classes. That's why we added mastery, so that, even if you're not very good at the ranger, you are gaining experience, and it's not a total loss. And you do feel like, it's just to encourage people to really experiment and to try more, because that's the point of Rogue Legacy and really of roguelikes in general, right? It's to experiment with the different items that you can pick up in a run, different build-outs as the runs progress. The problem with Rogue Legacy, or at least the difference with Rogue Legacy, is that there's a little bit more loadout at the start. So with a game like Binding of Isaac, you're the same character every single time, and you change as you progress through the world. Right, so you really never know how you're going to turn out. With Rogue Legacy, there's a little bit more preparation. You choose a class, you know what weapons you're going to have, you know what spells you're going to have. And we do give you the options to change them throughout the run, but for the most part, you do know how it's going to start.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting thing that I think comparing you guys to obvious other examples is you are very front-loaded in my decision in Rogue Legacy, and then it's just kind of doing the run from there. And obviously there's advantages and disadvantages to it. I'm kind of curious, was it ever even thought about in this game, or maybe it's future updates, giving players more decisions during that run? Or is it very much like, once in a while we have these couple choices, like in those like food choice, or like those back and forth choices? Or
it's actually, okay, so the designer might disagree with me on this, but the way I recall it is that we didn't have very many plans to let you change your loadout throughout the game. Because that's just the Rogue Legacy flair, right? That's how Rogue Legacy plays. And then we added relics, which, when the game launched, relics were a bit of an afterthought. So the relics are these items that you can get, which will change your character throughout a run, that you can't get you can get at the start, but originally you couldn't. But for the most part, there's a change during the run. And we only started with like 5 of them. And then people really, really enjoyed them. And we really saw how it changed the game throughout, which was really interesting. And so now we're sort of leaning towards more of those standard roguelikes where the game does change throughout. So now there's like 25 different relics in the game. And then we just added curio shops, which allow you to now change your weapon, change your spell, change your talents. And we have some ideas with curio shops that we want to expand on. So we're definitely making... So to answer your question, long story short, we hadn't really planned for it in the beginning, but we're definitely embracing it now, and we want to add more.
Makes sense. It's just good. Yeah, you guys are very different in that kind of thing. One of the things I want to touch on, though, that massively changed in this update, and I'm still wrapping my head on fully because I don't understand it, is How does so there's you have the new relic system we'll call it with the whole you resolve system relics change a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I read the thing when I was going through it, and I went to go play it, and it didn't feel different to me. So I don't know if I'm just not understanding it right, or is that really supposed to be that way?
Well, so the problem with relics originally was that every time you took a relic, you lost maximum health. And for more conservative players, that just meant they were never, ever going to pick up a relic. Because they always weighed health as more important than whatever bonuses a relic could give you. So the point of the resolve system was it gave us an opportunity to let those players use relics more without that detriment. So, like, if you go below 100% resolve, that's the only time your health will start to drop. But you can get items, you can get abilities that will increase the resolve well above 100 so that you can actually get relics cost-free, like, with no consequence. And so for people who were using relics, you probably won't see any change. But this is for the people who didn't use them at all, because relics are now a big part of the game, and we really wanted everybody to use them.
Yeah, see, I just get too used to, like, I have the one relic that, like, every time I kill an enemy, I gain health back, and then I gain mana back, and at a certain point, it's like, yeah, I just got too used to that, because others, you have the, what I consider the usual roguelike problem of, without that, I have very little health regen, and just finding a potion every 10 rooms
Yeah.
health regen to me. So, like, that relic at least fixes that problem.
Yeah. And we also have a lot of runes that maybe you haven't unlocked, or are a little bit too expensive at this time, that do help with that kind of issue as well. So there's lots of ways, but the difference between relics and runes is, again, runes are more upfront loaded, so you know every single run you're going to have life steal or you're going to have mana steal. So we try to strike a balance. With Rogue Legacy 1, it was like pure at the start. How is the game going to play? With Rogue Legacy 2, it's now more of both. Right. Well, Rogue Legacy 1, we don't want to stray from those roots, but we do like a lot of the things that we've seen in roguelikes, and we're trying to add them to Rogue Legacy 2 to make it more contemporary.
So, with that in mind, then, obviously, as we talked about at the beginning, we'll say this update started really great, and we'll say you have some bug fixes, obviously, to work on during this time.
Yep. Yes, we do.
So, obviously, I think that's going to probably push at least some stuff back a bit. What otherwise is the next kind of big plans then for Rogue Legacy 2?
Well, we still have a few biomes in the queue. So that's going to come out until we're done launching. So we're not happy with 4. We definitely want Rogue Legacy 2. It's like, because even though Rogue Legacy 2 has met the content for Rogue Legacy 1, that was never the plan, right? It was always to make it bigger. So there's always the biomes, there's always the standard affair that you should expect. More relics, more runes, more spells, more classes. But for the next patch, we are aiming on adding the Drift House. So the Drift House, to me, is something I am super duper excited about. We've got it all planned out, what we're going to do with it. Of course, it's going to change throughout. But the thing about so with each content patch, there's been a point to it, right? So for the Far Shores update, we were focusing on content. That's why we did double the biomes. With the Arcane Halos update, we were focusing on just improving the game. So we still give you the content, but it was quality of life, it was optimization fixes, it was stability fixes. And then with the the next content patch doesn't have a name, but for the next content patch, it's a focus on something new. So the Drift House is something not seen before in Rogue Legacy, so we're really, really excited to include that. I can't really spoil anything at this time, but I think it's going to be big, possibly even bigger than the Arcane Halos update. Yes, if I were a betting man, I would bet on that. I hope I'm not.
So we heard it. You're betting this. I understand that. Okay. Just wanted to clarify this. No,
I'm immediately regretting saying that, but at least what's on paper, there's lots of exciting stuff with this content update, and hopefully these patch fixes don't set us too far back. But we usually allot 2 weeks to it, and this Thursday will be about 2 weeks, so we're not really behind as far as schedule goes.
I was gonna say, because correct me if I'm wrong, because I think I was playing the game. It said something along the lines of May for the next update? Question mark. I thought that's what it said. And when you open up roguelikes, it says
Let's
the
see,
rough
February, March,
month.
April, May. Yeah. So April, May is the expected time. Now, I'll be the first to admit that we're not the greatest at reaching our deadlines, but it is always to make the game better, right? With every day that we do delay it is a day of frustrations that players don't have to experience when we launch Super Buggy. Because even though we did launch Super Buggy, it would have been worse if we did not delay it by the 3 weeks that we did for the last update. So April, May is the expected time, but we're not going to give any specific dates because that's just a bad idea.
I've learned is you never give dates in game development. You give rough feelings. You like spring, summer,
Yeah.
first half of the year. Stuff like that. That's just a lot. So as we get to the end of this, then as we talk about roguelikes 2, is there any? So obviously, now we have like 8 or 9 different classes. Are there any of them to you that really stand out that are your favorite, or is it still kind of like you just keep jumping between them and when you're messing with stuff?
That's an interesting question. Which one's my favorite? Let's see. There are quite a few to pick from. I'd say personally, my favorite is the Valkyrie, only because I love reflecting bullets. Like the talent to the Valkyrie is my favorite talent to the game. The one that I really tried to champion was the Chef, but the Chef, I don't know, it just didn't really turn out to be the gameplay that I'm attuned to. So I'd say Valkyrie for sure.
Yeah, the Chef's very interesting because the idea that I just use my ability to just cook and heal myself in the middle of the experience was a very unexpected, and he made him not super useful actually in combat, but made me survive with him a lot longer because of it.
Oh yeah. The fact that you can stack up health is a unique idea, and we there were a lot of. I'd say the Chef had the most iterations because we just couldn't come up with something that made sense and was theme based. So like originally he was gonna, every time you kill an enemy he drops ingredients and then you pick it up and then you can cook them and stuff, and it just didn't play right. And so we came up with something a little bit more familiar for players that play games like Dark Souls, because basically the cook's ability is very very similar to like Estus flasks as you get in the Dark Souls games.
I've played them a bit, but not a ton, but I get to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any? I'm going to ask you a spoiler update here if you have that or not. Are there any other ones that you feel like characters being ignored right now that you guys plan to kind of overhaul a bit, or is it just kind of like as stuff coming up, nothing's in the works per se?
That's a better question for the designer, but generally speaking, we're always tweaking the characters. It depends on what you would define as an overhaul. I don't think we've done any massive changes
like
to
numbers and balance, but I don't know if I've touched a class between updates and felt like
because
class.
Well, we have to be careful with making drastic changes to a class because there are people who do enjoy the class. And so if we suddenly say like, oh, this guy no longer attacks, he can like only jump or whatever, it sort of alienates the people who did like those classes. So we don't feel comfortable making those big changes. If there's clear problems that everyone has, then we'll fix them for sure. But I don't think the mages are not going to depend on mana, for example.
No, that's fair, and yeah, I'd hope the mage depends on mana because otherwise that'd be kind of weird.
It wouldn't make any sense, yeah.
Perfect, yeah. So as we can, thanks Kenny for sitting down and catching back up about Rogue Legacy 2. Again, games available on Steam and was it Epic Game Store?
Yes, that's correct.
I want to make sure I wasn't crazy. So Steam, Epic Game Store, in early access, in both. Continual updates every couple weeks, months, whatever, as content rolls out. And then at some point, sometime this year or next, the game will be, I assume, done. But I assume there's still a few more updates kind of in the works.
That's right.
Required eye break now.
No, great. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thanks again, and everyone go check the game out.
Awesome.
This episode is partially brought to you by the Humble Choice program. Did you know Humble Bundle has a great monthly subscription service that lets you get a ton of video games every single month? That's right, from plans range from $5 to $20 a month, you get a hold of a bunch of free games they have available to you. And you could use our code down in the description below to go and sign up. It would help our podcast and help you see what great games are available for you this month. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another interview segment of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest from all the way around the world. To get us started, could you please introduce yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Dennis. I am from Curious Foxes, the developer of Zooconomy, and this is a game about zoo and the economy.
Yeah, that's so it's one of those games that makes some sense on paper, but getting there is very interesting. Where did you come up with the idea of being like, we're going to create an economic simulator about zoos?
Yeah, this one is funny because I can really recall what was the occasion, but for some reason my girlfriend sent me a podcast episode, about this topic, about zoo economy. It was NPR's Planet Money, and it was titled "The Zoo Economy." Yeah, you can see some correlation here, and it was exactly about how zoos and aquariums get the animals. Because you really don't even wonder why or how, at least for me, because I was like, okay, sometimes I saw news like some animal was saved and then brought to a local zoo, and that's all. Yeah, so how do they got new animals? And basically the whole episode, it was quite small, was dedicated to that problem. So as we live in a modern world, and it's hard and even unethical to put a price tag on animal, you can say just this koala is like $1,000 and that gorilla is $10,000. You just can't do that. So zoos found a pretty clever way, but in the same time, it's very simple solution. They just exchange animals. Yeah, and that's basically it. They almost completely removed the money from the equation of this exchange process. Basically, they have a list. Each zoo can put what animals they need or what animals they can give. Yeah, like for example, we need, let's say, male wombat. And if some other zoo has a spare wombat, they can contact our zoo and say, yeah, we have a spare wombat, let's exchange. So it is a simple case, and if we have a spare animal which they need, we will just exchange, and that's all. But in a real world situation, it's not always the case, because zoos, not use, but they study animals, they participate in conservation programs, so they just can't give you, they need a male lion, and we have a male lion, but we need it ourselves. So in this situation, when other zoo have so needed animal for us, but we don't have animal which we can exchange for with them, we need to find other zoo which have this animal which other zoo wants. So it became like a chain when we exchange with another animal to exchange with the first, or to exchange with the first zoo. To exchange with the zoo and get animal for exchange with the first zoo we wanted in the first place. And such chain of exchanges, and it can sometimes be very long, involving maybe 5 zoos or more, and involve several animals, because of course the money question, the money is out of the equation, but we still just can't exchange young female lion for one red fox, because a red fox is very widespread, and let's say their rate of exchange is less than a lion. Yeah, so we'll, for example, exchange a lion for 2 red foxes and so on. So this idea was kind of forming to the a puzzle game where you finding these exchange chains. But very quickly it turned out that just exchanging process will be not boring, but it will be almost the same, because in my head I can come up with some ideas of different chains, but in the end it will, how many it will be, 5 different ideas how to make, let's say, levels with these exchanges. So additional mechanics was added to make this, let's say, puzzle game more deeper. So you have let's say zoo management, but it's not like some tycoon games where you have build the whole zoo, where you have to hire staff. No, it is just a simple version. You have to have a space for your animals. You can breed them. You have to cure them if they're ill, and you can exchange them. And it is basically it. Yeah, so it's a game about exchanging animals with some additional mechanics.
There's obviously a lot there, but yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So it's interesting again because there's a lot of constraints there, but you have to keep it like a fair and balanced game, and one of the big, obviously, concerns there is player usability and player feedback. Can you, obviously, you kind of dig a lot there, kind of walk us through, if I said, I'm going to sit down and play this game, what is it kind of like in my first 5-10 minutes, the player should expect this kind of experience to look like, actually, from a game point of view?
Okay, in a nutshell, you just have to complete several tasks with set of animals playing for specific zoo. Tasks are different, have these animals or have number of new species, or gain high relation with other zoo, or maybe breed several animals or specific species, and so on. And 70% of these tasks somehow based on animal exchange. For breeding, you need a pair of animals, and you have only female hippo you need to find or exchange it for male hippo, and you'll have a pair, and they can breed. So other tasks involve upgrading, making more space for your animals, building new enclosures, or you are required to get specific rating among all zoos. So you'll have a task and you need to finish them. We have 2 game modes, campaign mode and sandbox mode. In sandbox mode, you can select your zoo for which you will play. You can configure some settings. And when you start playing, each zoo will receive random number of animals, and task will be generated. And player can complete them or just ignore this task and just maybe he or she want to collect all the species in the game, or they have only one species in the zoo, the zoo will consist only of lions. So it's just a sandbox. In a campaign mode, all animals are pre-selected, as well as zoos and tasks. So you will play almost each mission will be different with different set of zoos. All of them, I think, except one, historic based. So in each mission, player will take part in a small real life story, playing as a Berlin Zoo after the end of the World War II, where they need to rebuild everything and to restore the animals, bring new one, or take care of a living symbol, Smokey Bear of the U.S. Fire and Forest Service. So, yeah, it's again, you just need to exchange animals and complete tasks.
It's funny because on paper it sounds like such a simple concept. You go, I need to get this animal. How do I do it? Where obviously in practicality, it's a lot harder of a task, right? So one of the things, as we kind of stick on this topic of game design and systematically running the game, is kind of, as you said, that's kind of what a turn looks like. Players have to obviously understand this information and just understand it effectively, and obviously you have to display it creatively. Have you guys had any issues of players understanding your menu systems and having to rework them? Or has it been like players' team to kind of understand what's going on in the experiences?
Yeah, this one is a tough one. And the real answer is we're doing it in iterations. So let's say we need a new menu, like just some new menu. And we will create like a base elements for it, like buttons, scrolls, like to make it functional. So this menu is working and it's doing what it's for. Maybe already in a style of other menus. So it's pretty working. We will leave it for a time and come back later with a fresh look and sometimes with a feedback from whoever plays the game, someone from our publisher, maybe some friends who play it and give us feedback on this menu. Because when you're making something like for some time, your eyes get like, I would say, blurry, so you won't find mistakes or inconvenience because for you made it and you know how it's working. And you're like, just okay, I know what to do. But players, of course, especially when they first time open the game, they will be like, okay, what should I do? So we will revisit this menu, change it based on feedback or our fresh feelings about it. And again, we will leave it for some time and maybe later we will come back for another time. So I will say we rebuilt the main menu, I think like 3 times already, and several screens as well. Probably if you play the demo, you will see that on some screens it's a little bit complicated. You have a lot of information, and we will try to make it less so you won't freak out when you open the menu. Also, a lot of text, numbers. So we're still working on it, and we'll probably work before release and even after release based on the player feedback. Because it's UI and it's always changing to make it more pleasant and let's say more easier. Also, like for first time player, we have in campaign mode there is like 4 tutorial missions where each menu is like described, like what it's doing. Of course, the game is a little bit complex, and we just can't, like one tutorial explain everything. So we will update tutorials as well to make them more interactive, or let's say just it will be step by step. And additionally, we have in Zoopedia, we have a section with hints about the game, so player can learn several additional things from it. So, yeah, I'll say something like this.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm kind of curious, kind of jump back to the zoo part of the equation. As we talked about, this is all based on a zoo. It's Zooconomy. How are you guys getting your research for the animals, if any? Like, would you say this is a realistic-ish scenario of how you're treating the animals, or is it kind of like you kind of gamified a lot of the systems behind like actual animals and transmitting them?
Let's say, like for animals, we wanted to create at first a diverse population of different animals, like mammals, reptiles, birds, and so on. So we selected like common list of animals, which almost all zoos have, like lions, foxes, giraffes, etc., etc. After that, we started selecting like interesting, unique, beautiful, or endangered animals, such as red pandas, ilipika, platypuses, and so on. We also asked players to suggest animals, and they suggest a pretty big number of animals, and we realized that we don't have any rhinos. It was like, oh, wait a minute, why don't we have a rhinos? Because it's so obvious to have them in the game. So we tried to collect information about each animal from several sources, from Wikipedia, from World Wild Font, because they have pages for endangered species, and from other websites like Animalia. It's animalia.bio. It's a really good website about animals. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of animals, but animals they have, there's a great structured information, like where these animals live, how their reproduction cycle, maybe some interesting facts, and so on. We try to, like, each animal have some characteristic, like life expectancy, mating period, like how many cubs are born, and so on. Like for now, we have like 110 zoo or 10 animals, and I think for all of them we have like almost 95% correct information. But as we are playing one of the missions, and it was about black bear, and the problem was that there's a task to mate two bears, and in real life they have like 1 month in a year when they can mate, and it was a problem because in the game breeding is based on, let's say, chances. So you have a window when they can mate. So it's like a random thing. And there is a quite good opportunity that they won't mate in 1 month. And so player will just wait another year for this to happen. Yes, on real life, this is how it will be. But for the game, you have to be like real or accurate with it, but also players has to it just had to be fun, so they have to have fun with it. And we decided, for example, for black bear to increase this like period at least for 2 months. So I would say that we'll try to be as accurate as possible, but as it's still a game, we will probably tweak some things just to make it not easier, but just maybe funnier to play. I would say something like this.
Makes a lot of sense. So obviously, as we're talking, you guys are getting ready in some capacity for an early access launch of the game. I'm kind of curious if we could run through very quickly your rough time frame of being in early access and kind of what someone should expect at the beginning of early access versus the end of early access if they buy your game.
This is a question we're not sure yet if we will ever go as early access, because originally we wanted to go in early access in the fall 2020, but for several reasons, mostly because of the fall itself. It's not a great month, or like several months to come up with like a small game, because there's a lot of AAA games released in that period, and it will just be vanished in the in the information, in the tweets, and etc. So we talked with the publisher, and we moved from fall to the second quarter of 2021. And for that reason, we're not sure yet, because Some part of what we wanted to do during the early access, we will do in that time, like from this time shift. So there's a problem that we really don't have so much thing to do in early access. So there's not really a like big reason to go there. So I can't say for now if we'll go there or if we will just release it like a full game because we still want to support it after the release with like new animals, new zoos, and so on. Maybe some missions. So we will still continue to working on the game. So I can't say for now if we will go there or not.
Perfect. Final question I have for you then during our time today is, do you have, and I know currency is always fun, a rough idea of what people should expect the game to cost?
We didn't, again, speak with our publishers exactly price, but it should be somewhere from $10 to $30. But I'll say it will be more around 20 something, maybe less, maybe more. So around something like this. But we will still have original pricing as well. So it will really depend on like in which country it will be bought. So
makes a lot of sense. So I want to say thank you for taking time to sit down and talk to me about the game today. If people wanted to go check it out, where should they be looking?
They can try to find it on itch.io is a free demo over there. You can go there and play it. It features sandbox mode with all current animals and zoos. And it features campaign mode with tutorial and 2 missions, like just two regular missions. You can try to find it us in Twitter, or you can as well try to find us on Steam as well and add the Zooconomy to the wish list. Or join our Discord server as well. Yeah, I think that's all the places we are in right now.
Right. If they're looking for the Discord link, I assume it's either on your website or social media.
Can you please repeat again?
So I assume if people are looking for your Discord link, it's either on your social media or they go on your website, they can find it.
The Discord link is, I think, everywhere. Website, in each, in Twitter. Yeah, so.
Well, thanks again, Dennis, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, I think it is.
Yeah, it will be evening. Yeah, thank you for asking me to come here. So yeah, bye everyone.
This podcast was a production of the SWW Show. To learn more, go to theswwshow.com. Remember, you can follow the show on Twitter at the SWW Show. You can follow me at Mikey_Maroney. You can follow AJ at LowSeatBoy. Remember, new episodes premiere on Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time on anchor.fm/SWW and podcast services around the globe.